This project, you guys are going to be needing an image, whether or not it's black and white. You're going to find an image that will look timeless if it was black and white. Or you can find a picture that already is black and white. So if you want to go into history, let's say that you want to find a photo of World War II. So as you do a search, you're going to go to images. It's okay if they have a sepia type tone. Some of them you'll find that they might be a little browned or a little kind of colored. That's okay. But you may want to find a picture that does look like it is very takes place in the past. So you can do the Iwo Jima memorial kind of picture. A lot of military type photos if you want. You can also go into sporting events, and you can go into actors, actresses from a long time ago. So one thing you want to do when you do a search, you go to images, but then you go to tools, size, large. So after you think you have a picture that you want to use, you click on it. You right click, open image in new tab, and it should fill up the space. You get it as large as possible. You right click and you save the image as, and you should be able to save it into your drive. Now the one thing about these photos is if you do find an old-fashioned picture, you might find that they're going to be very grainy and there might be some imperfections in the photo as opposed to finding something that's more modern. Now, like I said, if you find a photo that's modern, I'm really encouraging you guys to find a picture that when you get rid of the color, if you make it black and white, it's going to look pretty timeless, meaning it doesn't look modern at all. Okay, so the example that I'm going to be demonstrating is a photo that I took actually in my backyard yesterday, and it looks just like that. So there's really not a lot of modern sort of things to it. It's really just focusing on these Adirondack chairs, which are made of plastic, recycled plastic. So even though the recycled plastic's modern, the actual picture itself doesn't really indicate anything that kind of blares out at you that makes it look modern. When I make it black and white, it's going to look timeless. So that's your first step. Okay, so this next project, Splash of Color. After you find your picture, you're ready to go. You're going to open up Pixlr. And if you go to Pixlr/E, that should help you to get to the correct one. It's Pixlr E. So you can see I was working on a couple of things here. The end product, just to show you, here is my end product. So the idea is you are going to get a picture, whether it is a very old-fashioned picture or it is a modern picture that you have made black and white. And it should, like I was encouraging you guys to find a picture that looks timeless. If you take a modern picture, make sure that there's nothing that screams modern or screams 2020. You want it to look old-fashioned in some capacity. And then what you're going to do is you're going to find elements, you're going to find pieces of the image that you want to change the color. So I made my Adirondack chairs like kind of silly, bright, Eastery kind of colors. So the original picture, just to show you the difference, let me open that up, is this one right here. Okay, so I went from this, which was the picture that I took yesterday, to that. Okay, so I'm going to go through the steps on how to do this. So I'm going to X this out and start again. So you are going to open up an image. When you're in Pixlr E, you're opening up the image, and then you're going to find it, whether it's in downloads or if it's in your drive. You should know where you put it. Okay, when it asks you for the pre-resize image, you want to try to get it as many pixels as possible so you can see the max is 3840, here it's 1920, here it's 1280, so just pick the largest one and hit apply. So this image is now on your screen. So what you're going to do is you're going to make this whole image black and white. So a real nice easy way to do this is to go to Adjustment, and you're going to go to Desaturate. Okay, you could do that, and besides hitting Desaturate, if you go to Hue Saturation and you bring the saturation all the way down, that's one way to do it, so you could see that it's black and white. But like I said, easier, kind of faster way to do it, if you want, you just hit Desaturate and it takes away the color. So it may be where you may want to crop the picture, and you want to do this before you start anything else. After you desaturate, if you decide to crop it, you can hit the crop tool. Along the top here, you want to select free, and then if you wanted to make it a little more narrow, if there's areas that you wanted to crop in some way, you can certainly do that. But I would say do that early on in the stage of the game, so it's just less to deal with later. Personally, I'm going to leave mine the way it is. I'm going to keep it just like this. Okay? But if you wanted to crop, now would be the time to do that. So you're going to decide on what to apply color to, and then a little bit later on you can kind of decide on what color you actually want to make it. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating layers, and on these layers you're going to be making a layer that will be the item that you want to color. For example, let's say that I just want this middle chair to have color and everything else is going to be black and white. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer that just has this chair along with the background. So to do this, I'm going to be using this tool called the Cutout mask. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to duplicate this background layer. To do this quickly, if you're on the Arrange tool, you have a button here that says Duplicate. If you are not on the Arrange tool and you do not see Duplicate up here, you can hit these three buttons right in the layer, and you have the option to duplicate right here. So whether you want to hit Duplicate on the top or you want to hit Duplicate here, that's how you make a duplicate copy. So you now you'll have your background, and then you'll have your background copy. Everything you do at this point moving forward, you're exclusively doing it to the background copy. You are not doing anything to this background image. So you want to make sure that that background copy is highlighted. We're going to go to this tool right here, the Cutout mask. And what it does is it removes the background. It cuts out objects from a layer. So we're going to remove everything except that middle chair from that layer. Okay. Now up on top here, you're going to see your tools. You have different tools that you can use to remove and to actually put back areas that you want to remove from your layer. So if I go to the shape cutout, for example, and then I go ahead and I just make a shape here, you can see that it's green. So what happens is it allowed me to select what was being added to the cutout. Now it doesn't look like anything happened, but you might have noticed in this layer area here, you can see that a lot has been removed. There's a checkerboard. So I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to do that same thing again. I went to history and I undid it. I'm going to unlock, or I'm going to make the background rather invisible by clicking on here. So again, the image doesn't change. So this just makes this background invisible. So all you see is this this layer. And I'm going to do this again. So what this did is it added this area right here to the layer. So if I wanted to go to the brush and I wanted to draw, every time I color in an area green, you could see it's putting that back. Okay. Now this is just an introduction to the tool. You can see I'm not really doing anything that's really productive except maybe catching a little bit of that. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using these tools, and we're going to be adding the area that we want. So you can see now I'm on the lasso tool, and what I'm doing is I'm kind of lassoing where I think that chair is right now. And the way that this works is when it is green, it's adding to that selection. So you may say, well, I'm adding way too much. There's a lot of this that I want to get rid of. And I'll say, yeah, so if you want to get rid of spaces, you would change the mode from adding to cutout to remove from cutout. So now watch, I'm going to still use the lasso tool. But now I'm going to lasso around this original area. I do not need this background. And it's circled around red, and you can see now it's gone. So what you're going to do is you're going to be making this layer only have this Adirondack chair, this one Adirondack chair. So while I'm kind of roughing it out right now, I'm going to be going back and zooming in, getting really close. So this lasso tool is really useful because you can get these big areas really quickly. But you may want to decide in a little while to go to a brush tool. I don't think that shape tool is going to be useful at all. There's also this magic cutout. So it works only when there's a nice contrast between spaces. So you can see here, when I click on it, it is selecting the grass, but it also is ending up selecting part of that chair. So it's not really a good tool to use most of the time. You could use it in reverse. You can add to cutout. But again, it's not really useful for this case. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be making this layer look as though all you see in this layer is all of this chair, or in your case, when you start on your project, whatever you want to be that one color. Okay, so I'm going to continue to work. Zoom in a bit. Back to the cutout. I'm going to go with the brush. By the way, the brushes, you can change the size of the brush and the softness. I would suggest keeping the softness at 0, so it's a nice hard brush. So the brush could be larger or it could be smaller, and just pay attention, making sure that what you want to remove is going to be red and what you want to put back is going to be green. So I think I'm going to kick this into faster gear, but I will complete this part of it. So once you have everything cut out of that layer except for what you want to color, You can bring the other picture back, the background back, so you can see, and you can kind of go back and forth, make sure that you got everything. You could change this later on. You can actually edit it, add and take away later on. But now comes the fun part. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make this a specific color. So we're going to go to Adjustments, and then we're going to go to Hue and Saturation. And now we are on the layer that has just the thing you want to change the color to. We're going to slide the toggle there for colorize. You can see automatically that a color pops up. So you can make it crazy bright. In fact, I encourage you to kind of kick up the saturation. You could move the lightness up or down, but I wouldn't go too nuts with this. This is not what it's going to look like. It's going to look you want it to be, right now you want it to look way too, too bright, like more bright than you really want it to be. So let's say I want it to be this like green, but I'm going to go a little bit too obnoxious with that green, more than I need. And then I'm going to apply it. So what this did is it made that background copy an obnoxious color. So we're going to change the blend mode of this layer. And to do this, I think I went a little too quickly, you're going to click on these three buttons here. Now you could lower the transparency. Let's say that you want it to be a little bit more subdued. You can lower down the transparency of it a little bit. So what it's doing is it's lowering, it's making it kind of see-through, so you can see the gray background through it. But try this. Change blend mode either to overlay or to color. So I'm going to change it to color. So you can see nothing really changed that much. I could lower the transparency down still, until it's the look that you really want. Overlay kind of changes it a little bit more. Overlay kind of allows you to get some of those like darker tones and stuff. So again, you can lower the transparency if you want it to be a little bit more subdued. So it's a matter of taste whether you want to use overlay or color. You can certainly go ahead and see what some of these other blend modes use or do the look. But the blend mode is actually just it's kind of an effect, or it interacts with what's behind it. Okay, so I kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of torn. I think I'm going to leave it color. And I am going to, let me just double check. You know what? I'm going to make it overlay, but I'm going to lower the transparency a little bit. Just going to mellow the color out just a bit. So that's that. So now if you notice that you like maybe missed something, you can certainly go back. This is kind of cool. You can go back and go to this background copy, go back to Cutout, and let's say that this little knob wasn't supposed to be there. You can go back and you can remove it from the cutout. And then if you say, oh, well, actually I removed too much, you can go to either draw or lasso, and you can add to the cutout just like that. Okay. So, if you've made any sort of mistakes or you want to make any modifications, you can certainly do that later on. Some of you guys might want to, almost do this at the very beginning. So that's how that's going to go. I'm looking for, if you can do a couple of different things with color, that's fine. It's really just a matter, again, of taste and what you really want to create. If your picture just allowed for just one thing, one color, and it took you, a short period of time, it's going to be very noticeable. I'm going to be able to see that. So I do want it to look as though you spent a considerable amount of time. My motivation is to do 3 different colors here. One last thing, that if you're ready to have some other color, like let's say I want to work on this chair right here, you're going to duplicate the background again, okay? And then you're going to go through the same process. So if you're going to cut out, you're going to start removing what you do not need. So in our case, it would be removing everything but that chair that's in the foreground. So just go through that process once again, and I'm going to make the background invisible. I'll make the other one invisible. So you're just going to go through this process again. If it's going to be the same color as the other chair, I do not need to make this as a separate layer. It's only if it's going to be a different color than the other chair. If it's the same color as that previous chair I did, you can certainly just use the same layer. Okay. So I just wanted to show you really quickly. I'm starting it. I didn't finish this process, of course. It's a lot of areas I still need to get. But now I could go ahead if I wanted to, and I can go to Adjustment. I can go to Hue Saturation. I can colorize it, and I can go ahead and pick the color that I want. Let's say I want it to be like a pinkish color. Hue Saturation, make it a little obnoxious. I'm going to apply it. And then I can go ahead and change the blend mode to, it's probably a good idea to use the same for each one. Change it to overlay. I can lower the transparency if I want. And do it this way. And then I can go back, if I bring the background back, I can go ahead and continue to work with this and adding to cutout and removing from the cutout. One very, very last thing is if you are doing a process in which you are adding and subtracting at the same time, like let's say I remove this, there's a shortcut to going from subtracting to adding. Let's say I go ahead and I subtract it, but then I subtracted too much. If you hold down the Shift button, you can see the mode changed, and it changes as I hold down the Shift button and make that selection. The Shift button will change it back to, to the other one. So right now I'm on remove from cutout. Now I'm going to hold down the Shift key. You can see that the mode switches every time I hit Shift. Shift on, Shift off, Shift on, Shift off. So if you know that you're jumping back and forth really quick, if you hold down the Shift key, it'll take you to the other one. So that's it. So you just keep working, and hope you have fun with this. I do want these projects to be something that's enjoyable. If you feel like you're being forced to do it, it could be because the picture is not what you wanted to use. It could be that the image is too complex. It could be that you bit off more than you can chew. You're doing way too much, or you're just not feeling it. So early in the game, switch your image or try something different on it. Okay? Like I said, I do want you guys enjoying these projects.